So welcome to lab number 10, where we're going to take a look at some fault handling. So let's start off with going to Apigee. And over here, we should see that we have all of our previous proxies already deployed. Let's take a look at the retail proxy. And then in there, what we want to do is make a change on the default endpoint. And there is an empty fault rules element here that you can see right here. Okay, so that's there by default. So let's remove that. And instead of it, we're going to put a custom fault rule element. Let me just make it look nice. So we have a fault rule called JSON thread that refers to the JSON TP protect rule. Okay, so this is now a fault rule. So if it happens that the JSON thread protection policy raises a fault, then this particular fault rule will be triggered based on that. Okay. So these fault rules, like if we take a look at them over here, they don't show up anywhere, right? They're not here in the graphical representation of the request and the response. So what we need to do is we need to create a policy regarding JSON threads, but not really attach it to a flow. So it seems kind of interesting. So how can we do that? Well, we can do that by going to policies here and then clicking add policy. So the policy that we're going to add is an assign message policy. I'm going to say it's called 400 JSON thread. And then the definition of that is going to be as follows. So if JSON protection says that execution failed, reason JSON thread protection, then what we're going to do is say invalid JSON payload. Okay, I'm going to say that it's a status code 400 and a bad request. All right. So let's go to our proxy endpoints. And in our fault rule that we have, I'm going to add a step. Okay, this is the JSON thread step. And the condition was that the JSON protect was false. I'm going to add in here a step that if the fault name matches execution failed, then we're going to run that AM400 JSON thread policy. Okay. So let's see how that works. Another thing that we could do is take a look at the incoming data. So the JSON thread policy only gets called if the content type header of the incoming request is set to being application JSON. So another thing that we could do is go to proxy endpoints default. In our case, I think anything would be okay. Let's go for create order. And then we're going to add, this is the JSON TP protect policy right here. So we're going to add a step. And then that step is going to be a raise fault step, right? And it's going to be called invalid content type. I'm going to run it whenever the content type of the request is not application/JSON. Okay. So now the actual definition of that is fairly simple. I'm just going to say that there's going to be a error of the content type must be JSON, and 400 and bad request is what we're going to return. Now the problem here is that if you take a look at the visual representation of create order, is that the JSON TP is going to be before the invalid content type. So we actually want to first check that the incoming request is of type JSON, and then run the JSON TP protect policy after that. Okay, so we're going to save that. And then another thing that we could do here in our default proxy endpoint is add conditional flow. So we're going to call that conditional flow for not found. We'll just, make a description similarly. And the condition type is going to be nothing, right? So we have to put something in there first. But then once we look at the 404 conditional flow, let's go through the default .xml. And then we can delete the condition for it. So if nothing else matches, then we're going to return a 404. Finally, the 404 not found endpoint. Let's find it over here and add a policy step. And then we're just going to raise a fault for this one as well. Oops. Raise. We're going to call this one 404 not found. And this policy specifically, we want to define in such a way that we're going to set invalid request and then 404 not found. Okay, now we made all of the changes, so let's deploy this into our environment. And then while we're waiting, let's create our instance again. Or not create, rather connect to it. We're creating some keys. So now we're connected. And then let's get the API key to the system. And then let's see where we are with the deployment. The deployment has finished. That's cool. So we can try this stuff out. Okay. So let's say we do a request like this. So on to the orders, we do a post, we create a new order with some stuff. And this is going to be rejected because the JSON TP protect policy has a requirement of there being a maximum of 3 items. So remember that. We just take a look at here. You can see the JSON thread protection, maximum number of elements is 3. So it's not going to let it through. Note that we're not really giving back the original error. We're just giving back a smaller amount of information. Then let's test for the incorrect content type. We're doing a post, and then we're just giving the directly the content. And this will fail because the content type header must be application/JSON. And then let's test for the 404 error as well, right? So we're looking here for a tests endpoint, which doesn't exist. So that gives us back a 404 error as well. All right. So this is everything. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next lab. Till then.